Management roles and responsibilities. That's where you're supposed to start. We're supposed to start from management roles and with responsibilities for data and data protection. So the first management role that we look at is the data protection officer. For the purposes of those who are writing, the first management role that we're going to look at is the data protection officer role. And a data protection officer role is basically somebody who is looking at the protection strategy, is the overall person when it comes to the strategy that is used in protecting the data of the organization and even its implementation, the implementation of that strategy. So he oversees the organization data protection strategy and its implementation. The data protection officer, DPO, is actually a leader in taking up the security role. And the security role is normally created with what we call the enforcement of the GDPR, which stands for General Data Protection Regulation, that is actually responsible for supervision and the implementation of the various protection strategies of data. So is there to make sure that the General Data Protection Regulation is complied to, and all the other data laws are complied to, all the other data protection laws are complied to. So the role of the data protection officer is to monitor some internal compliance and also to make sure that the organization is able to process the personal data complying with the protection laws. So it's there just to make sure that the company follows the data protection laws as it processes personal data. So a more important role is that the data protection officer is also responsible of giving a demonstration of the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. It should be able to demonstrate how their implementation or how their policy, their strategy actually complies with the laws, and how do they incorporate the data protection with the data protection authority. He also has a role that is the third role, and the third role is to inform and to advise the company about the protection obligations and making sure that whatever policies the company come up with are compliant. Another role is that DPO should be able to cooperate with other organizational units, or what we call departments, that are actually taking part in processing personal data. For example, the marketing department or the human resource department. So usually the data protection officer is an IT professional, or we call him a legal expert. So the data protection officer should be one of the two things, either an IT professional or a legal expert, but it's not a must that he be both. Okay. So what are the responsibilities of the data protection officer that are given under the GDPR? The responsibilities of the data protection officer are given under GDPR. The first one is inform and advise the company. The first responsibility is to inform and advise the company. So his work is to actually um, advise the company on how the GDPR wants them to comply and how they can actually comply with the available data protection laws. Number two, managing internal policies. Managing internal policies. There are policies that are formulated internally, that are operational internally, regarding the data protection. And it is the work of the data protection officer to manage those policies, to just make sure that the company is following those internal policies. Number three is there to also raise awareness. Is there to also raise awareness. When we talk about raising awareness, we are talking about explaining things or speaking to the employees or the staff or the company in general about things that they might not know. So you should be able to raise awareness and offer also staff training for the various employees that are involved in the processing activities of the data. You will also offer training to them. The fourth role is give advice and recommendations. So the data protection officer can recommend or can advise on how data should be interpreted and how uh, the data can be used in application to the set rules. The other responsibility is handling complaints or maybe requests. So the DPO handles requests, handles complaints by the institution, that is the organization. Any complaints or request coming from the data controller, any request or complaints coming from the data subjects, or you can be there to work on general improvements for their own benefit, for the benefit of all those people handling data. So he's there to ensure that we have data subjects, the request of data subjects maybe to access or see some copies of their personal data, or to have their personal data erased are fulfilled or recommended to. If you have been storing your data in that organization, it's your personal data, and now you want to access it, that is a request. The DOP should be able to handle that. Or you want that data to be deleted or to be erased, the DOP should be handling that request. Data subjects are the people whose personal data are stored in the institution. We call them data subjects. Okay. We call those people data subjects. Okay, so the other role. The other role is, or rather still in terms of handling complaints or requests, the data protection officer should be able to give a response to the data subjects, giving them information about how their data is going to be used and what policies or what measures the company has in place to make sure that the personal data of their data subjects is protected. The DPO also has a role to report any failure to comply with the GDPR or any applicable data protection rules should be reported by the DPO. He has also the task or the responsibility to monitor compliance with the GDPR or maybe other data protection law. He has also the responsibility to identify and do an evaluation of the various activities that the company does in terms of processing data. Okay. He's also going to have a responsibility of cooperating with the supervisory authority and also maintaining the records of the processing operations of the data. So let's look at the problems of fragmentation and duplication of information across an organization. The problem of fragmentation and duplication of information across an organization. Yes, sir. Zote zinakuanga zimefungwa na machine. Yeah. Yep. Okay, sorry for that. Now there are reasons as to why organization create and implement programs. And normally the programs that these organizations implement are managed by a department or maybe some specific agency that is going to deal with it. And normally the programs that we have are going to include various activities or maybe various strategies, and they are going to target a certain population or certain group of people who are going to be beneficiaries of those activities or of those programs. So the programs need to be funded. So they are usually funded using budgets that are created, and at the end of the day, the general goal of the organization program is to make sure that their proposed mission is fulfilled, while at the same time the integrity and the progress aspect of the organization is kept. But even when program design and funding are done well, they are coordinated by the program leaders and agency, there are other issues that are currently present among programs that are done at organizational level, or what you call organization programs. We have issues known as fragmentation. We have the issue of overlap. We have the issue of duplication. Okay, fragmentation, overlap, and duplication. Now, if you look at these issues, you will realize that each term and terminology is actually a different issue, but they affect the programs in same ways, and they rise into similar repercussions that leads to the same root cause. So if you don't have enough coordination and communication of the goals, the targets, population, and even the vision among these different agencies, then these problems can occur. So we need to understand all these issues. And that is why my topic is problems of fragmentation and duplication of information systems. Of information across an organization. So we need to understand what fragmentation is. We need to understand what overlap is. We need to understand what duplication is. So fragmentation normally happens in circumstances where we have more than one department. So we have either two or more departments or two or more agencies or two or more sections that are actually taking part in the same area of need, or how do I call it? Or they're actually working together in the same, to provide the same service. They're working together to provide the same service. In such a scenario, then fragmentation can occur. Number two, overlap is going to occur when we have multiple agencies or maybe multiple programs that they have the same goals, they have the same strategies, they are doing the same activities, and they have the same beneficiaries. So assuming we have the IT department and we have the hospitality department, the IT department is involving itself in a coding club, doing the same activities as another department in the same organization. We call that overlap, which is an issue. We have many departments doing the same activities. They are targeting the same beneficiaries. Yeah, you see, that's what we call overlap. Then we have duplication. Now, duplication is going to occur when we have two or maybe more agencies or programs that have the same goals. They have the same goals, they have the same activities, and they are giving out the same services to the same beneficiaries. We call it duplication. This department is offering this service. Now, that same service is being offered by another department in the same institution. It means now we have duplication. So it's very important for us to understand these terms because they are laying the basis of our discussion. So if we don't have alignment of goals, we don't have alignment in terms of vision, we don't have alignment in terms of the population that we are targeting, we don't have a proper alignment in terms of the resources that we are allocating, then it means we are going to have the effect of overspending of the various budgets that are brought into question, and that is going to lead, it is going to make the people frustrated, it's going to make the people confused, and that is going to start from the people benefiting it and even the stakeholders who are affected by the various programs. The beneficiaries will be confused because this department does this, that other department is still doing the same. This department is giving us this service, that other department is still giving us the same service. Yeah, so definitely, most definitely, there's going to be confusion. Now, we have an accountability officer for the organization who reviews what we call fragmentation, looks at fragmentation, looks at the overlap, and looks at duplication according to how the organization structure mandates that person. Is the person in charge to make sure that the activities of one department, the goal of one department is not the same as the goal of another department. The activities of one department is not the same as those activities of another department. The people or the target population of one department is not going to be the same as that of other departments. So then the organization is going to release some annual reports that are going to outline the various actions that are done in the various or across branches, so that then that issue can be mitigated and make sure that coordination is brought in and communication is brought in to prevent that overlapping, to prevent that fragmentation, to prevent that duplication among organizations. So people, maybe they can decide, since this department does ABCD to ABCD groups, the same group, then we can merge all these and form one department, or we can scrap off two departments. We can scrap them off from this activity, so that one department can handle it. By that way, we'll be preventing these issues. We'll be preventing these issues. Now, there are 4 steps that are recommended to follow when you are trying to manage fragmentation, when you are trying to manage overlap, and when you are trying to manage duplication issues. There are 4 steps that are recommended to follow. The first one is you are defining a focus for review. So here you're going to look at the programs and activities that are related to a goal. So define the goals of your program or your activity, then define your outcomes. Then identify who are your beneficiaries, or who are your customers, or who are the population that you are targeting. Then look at the key benefits that are going to come out. What are the services? What are the products? Then you administer agencies or agency organizational structure. Then you look at the allocation of resources and the budget structure. That is number one. Number two, you need to identify any fragmentation. Any fragmentation, identify any overlap, identify any duplication, and any potential effects that can come as a result of the implementation of your program. So check or determine if you have one, if any of these issues are actually happening. Check if there is fragmentation. Check if there is overlapping. Check if there's duplication. Identify the various relationships that are going to be in there between the fragmented, overlapping, and the duplicative programs. Then you look at the similarities in the areas of service, the various target populations, and the activities of the programs. Do we have any similarities in the various services that we provide? Do we have similarities, any similarities in the people that we target? Do we have any similarities in the activities that we do? Then number three, you will move on and validate the various effects. And you do an assessment and you compare the various programs. So you're going to do evaluations. You look at the various effects that you identified. Then you compare the performance of the various programs. You look at, you give a confirmation to the findings with the relevant stakeholders or agencies. Then you look at the benefits, the products and the services. If are efficient, are they complementary? Do they serve the needs of the beneficiaries and the stakeholders? And the last thing they're going to do is going to identify the various options that you can actually use to increase efficiency and reduce or manage the fragmentation, overlap, and duplication better. So you need to do a streamline. You create, you restructure, or you remove the outmoded organization operations and structures. In other words, those operations that are similar. You clarify the roles and responsibilities. Each organization, each department should have a clear role and a clear responsibility. Then you improve the various processes that are used, the various technologies that are used, and the various policies that are designed for use. Now, you also need to coordinate across agencies and the partners through the data that you acquire and also information sharing. So there are coordination recommendations that can help agencies to address these three issues: fragmentation, overlap, and duplication. The recommendations include, but are not limited to: one, establishing mutual joint goals and strategies; number two, addressing and identifying needs by leveraging resources; number three, you need to agree on roles and the various responsibilities; number four, you need to establish the compatible procedures. You have procedures that are compatible, policies that are compatible, and some other means to operate across agency boundaries. Number five is developing mechanisms to monitor, evaluate, and report on results. You also reinforce individual accountability through the performance management systems. You also reinforce agency accountability for the collaborative efforts through agency plans and reports. Up to there, ask me a question before I go to responsibility of individuals and groups for security. Ask me a question. I said when you are in this class, the camera should be on. Musa. I hate repeating myself. From tomorrow, I won't repeat that. I'll just be removing you. I see your camera is off. I remove you.
Sir,
That is
laptop
what
ilikuwa
I'll start doing.
inkushabia trying to come with the phone. I didn't know if the camera
Hiyo si
was off.
shida, hiyo si shida yangu. Wewe ulikuwa umejua kuwa uko na class
Yeah,
ama
I
uko
knew,
unajua?
but I had to switch to phone. So I didn't know if the camera was off. If I knew, I could have...
Okay. Any question? Okay, if there's no question, let's proceed. The responsibility of individuals and groups for security. In other words, we are looking at what are the various responsibilities that individuals have. When I say individuals, I mean a specific person. And when you say groups, then I could mean more than one person. The first one that we're going to look at is the risk execution function. The risk execution function. Now, the risk execution function can actually be represented by an individual or maybe a group of people. For example, we can have the chief, we can have the CEO, we can have board members, and we can have the chief information officers in a particular organization who are going to actually being responsible for looking at the risk-related considerations. It's going to have the overall strategic goals as stated by as stated to make sure that the business functions are met. We call that risk executive function. They have responsibilities such as one, defining a complete strategy to address the security risk across the whole enterprise. So coming up with a strategy that is going to look at the security risk in the entire organization, then develop a management strategy. If this risk occurs, how are we going to manage that risk? So they are going to develop the risk management for the enterprise. Number three, they are going to be in charge of supervision on the activities that are associated on risk or the risk associated activities in the enterprise. The other person is chief executive officer, CEO, chief executive officer. So if you look at the chief executive officer, we are looking at the highest level senior executive, or it can be the various officials in a enterprise that have the whole responsibility to offer protection to information security, and they have various responsibilities, or the person has various responsibilities to carry out. So the basic responsibility for the CEO, the chief executive officer, includes one, integrating the process of information security management with the process of the strategic as well as the operational planning. So just making sure there is an integration among the three processes: the information security management process, the operation planning management, and also the processing strategy function also. Number two is going to ensure that we have systems and the information that is used in that organization is available to bring in or to ensure facilitation in the organizational operations, which would include things like the respective information security safeguards. Then we have number three, which is approving that the trained personnel are fulfilled with associated information security processes, policies, the legislation, instructions, directives, and guidelines. So their work is to make sure that the trained personnel that are coming in are actually fulfilled in terms of what they know, in terms of information security policies, in terms of legislation, in terms of the instructions needed, in terms of the directives needs to be given, and also in terms of the various guidelines that are needed. So the third is the chief information officer. The third is the chief information officer. Now, the chief information officer has the following basic responsibilities. The first one is doing resource allocation for the system protection. So he's going to give the resources, he's going to allocate the resources that are needed for protecting the system that is going to support the mission of the business and also the functionality of the organization. Also has the responsibility of guaranteeing that the systems that we have are shielded by conforming to security plans, and also they are allowed to function. The third is that is going to just make sure or ensure that we have an enterprise-wide security program that is being implemented effectively. Number 4 is the information owner. The information owner. The information owner has the following responsibilities. 1, has the responsibility of establishing the rules for the proper use as well as the protection of the sensitive details. So decides what are the various rules that needs to be followed to make sure that there is proper use of the information system, the proper use of the information, and to make sure that the sensitive information of that information owner is protected. Number 2, uh, there is the offering of input to the system owners about the various security controls and the various requirements that are needed to sufficiently protect the sensitive information. Number 3 is going to be in charge of creating the policies and procedures, supervising its generation, the processing and the collection and disposal, and also the dissemination of the policies and procedures. The 5th one is the Senior Agency Information Security Officer, who has the following responsibilities. 1, managing and implementing an enterprise-wide information security program. Number 2, assuming the responsibility of confirming security control assessor when that is needed. Number 6, we have the authorizing official, who has the basic responsibilities including 1, confirming security plans, looking at the action plans, and also checking whether some certain changes in the environment or in the system of the operation need to be reauthorized. Number 2, guaranteeing that the designated representatives are performing whatever they're supposed to perform. They're performing their duties. They're performing their functions in terms of the security of the organization. The 7th is authorizing official designated representative, who has the responsibilities including 1, assuming the responsibilities of the authorizing officials. Number 2, is going to be responsible in taking decisions with respect to planning and resourcing of the authorization process. Number 3 is going to prepare the authorization package, making sure that he gets the signatures of the officials that are supposed to be authorizing on the documents that are related to authorization decisions. Number 8, we have the senior agents official for privacy, who has the roles: 1, supervising, facilitating, and coordinating the privacy compliance efforts of the agency. Number 2, reviewing the information privacy procedures of the agency that guarantees that they are comprehensive and well as the current regulations. Then it's going to ensure that the contractors and employees of the agency are receiving proper education and training programs. Number 9 is the common control provider, who has the following responsibilities: 1, documenting the enterprise identified common controls in the organization documents, for example, the security plan. Number 2, guaranteeing that the desired evaluations of the common controls are taken out by what we call the capable assessors that are defined by the enterprise. Then number 10, we have the system owner, who has the following responsibilities: 1, addressing the user's operational interests. Number 2, guaranteeing the compilation with the security requirements. Number 3, creating and developing the system security plan. Number 4, guaranteeing that the system is operated and deployed based on the various security controls put in place. We have the system security officer with 2 responsibilities, and the first one is supervising the regular security operation of the system. Number 2, supervising or reporting the security policies and the various procedures development and the guarantee compliance with the security policies and procedures. Number 12, you have the information security architect, who is doing two responsibilities again, serving as the contact person between the organization and the architect and the security engineer. Number 2 is going to coordinate with common control providers, the various system owners and system security officers. So we have system security engineer, whose work is to design and develop the enterprise system. Number 2 is also going to be there to create a coordination between the security-oriented activities with the security architects and the system owner. Then we have the security control assessor, who has the following responsibilities. 1, offering an evaluation to determine the weaknesses in the system. Number 2 is going to suggest the various actions that can be done to address the determined vulnerabilities. Is going to prepare assessment report that has the results of the evaluation. Then we have the system administrator, performing the following responsibilities: installation, configuration, and updating of hardware and software. Number 2, establishing and managing the various user accounts. Number 3, if there's any backup and recovery tasks that needs to be done, he's going to be in charge of supervision. Number 4, is going to implement the technical controls that are related to systems. Then we have the user, who have the following responsibilities. The user is supposed to follow policies that govern the utilization of the systems. Number 2 is going to employing to the enterprise provided resources for certain purposes only. And last but not least, on this is going to report if we have any suspicious or anomalies system behavior. If the system is misbehaving, the user is going to report. There are many other roles. There are other many roles, including auditors, physical security staff. You have disaster recovery staff, quality assurance staff, procurement office staff, training office staff, human resource, risk management staff, physical plant staff, private office staff, etc., etc. Those are just additional roles.